He lost his entire empire overnight and desperately tore open a box labeled 4 things in your hard times. He expected cash, but found 4 simple stones. What happened next proves that the power of resilience is worth more than millions. The silence was the loudest thing Marcus had ever heard. It wasn't the silence of peace, it was the silence of a vacuum. Just 24 hours ago, his life had been a cacophony of ringing phones, shouting brokers, and the clinking of crystal glasses in a penthouse that overlooked the city like a conqueror surveying his kingdom. Now, the phones were dead, the brokers were gone, and the penthouse? The bank had already changed the locks. Marcus sat on the edge of a peeling motel bed, the neon sign outside flickering a rhythmic red buzz that felt like a countdown. He had lost it all. The tech empire he built? Gone. His reputation? Shredded by a scandal he didn't see coming because he was too busy looking in the mirror. His friends? They evaporated the moment the credit card stopped working. He put his head in his hands. He felt a physical weight on his chest, a crushing pressure that made it hard to breathe. He was 32 years old, and he was finished. But then, a memory scratched at the back of his mind. It was a memory of his father. The old man hadn't been rich. He was a carpenter, a man of sawdust and calluses. On Marcus's 18th birthday, just before Marcus left for business school, his dad had handed him a heavy wooden shoebox. It was taped shut with layers of duct tape. On the lid, written in thick black marker, were the words, 4 things in your hard times. Don't open this when you scrape your knee, his dad had said, his voice gravelly and serious. You open this when the world breaks you, when you have nothing left. Marcus had laughed it off back then, tossing the box into the trunk of his car. He had dragged that box from apartment to condo to penthouse, never once thinking about it. To him, it was just old junk. But tonight, sitting in this motel room with his life in ruins, he remembered where it was. It was in the one bag he had managed to pack before the feds locked the doors. Marcus scrambled off the bed. He tore through his duffel bag, throwing clothes aside until his fingers brushed against rough cardboard. He pulled it out. It was heavy. His heart started to hammer against his ribs. Heavy means valuable, he thought. His dad didn't trust banks. He didn't trust the stock market. This box, this had to be it. Gold, cash, bonds. It was his bailout. It was the lifeline that would get him back in the game. His hands shook as he clawed at the old duct tape. He ripped the lid off, tipping the box over onto the bedspread, ready to count his salvation. He froze. There was no cash. There was no gold. 4 smooth gray river stones tumbled onto the mattress. That was it, just rocks. Marcus stared at them, his vision blurring. A laugh bubbled up in his throat, but it sounded more like a sob. Is this a joke? He screamed at the empty room. This is what you left me? Rocks? He grabbed one of the stones, ready to hurl it through the window, to shatter the glass just like his life had been shattered. But as his fingers curled around the cold stone, he felt the texture. There was something painted on it. He brought it closer to the flickering red. One word was painted in white. Patience. He frowned, his anger pausing for a microsecond. He picked up the second stone. Gratitude. He picked up the third. Courage. And the fourth. Faith. He dropped them back onto the bed. He felt foolish. He felt betrayed. He needed money, not a Sunday school lesson. He needed a lawyer, not a moral compass. He slumped back against the headboard, exhausted. He stared at the stones. Patience, gratitude, courage, faith. They mocked him. But as the hours of the night ticked by, and the adrenaline of his anger faded into a dull ache, he remembered something else his father used to say. Marcus, never forget that the mind is like a mental factory. If you dump garbage into the hopper, fear, panic, greed, the factory will only produce garbage. But if you feed it the right raw materials, it can build anything. Marcus looked at the stones. These weren't just words, they were raw materials. For the first time in years, Marcus stopped calculating. He stopped scheming. He picked up the stone marked gratitude. What do I have to be grateful for? He thought bitterly. I'm in a motel. But he was alive. He had his health. He had a mind that was still sharp. He had the memory of a father who loved him enough to prepare him for a moment he hoped would never come. A tear slid down his face, then another. The dam broke. He wept for the boy he used to be and the man he had failed to become. That night was the turning point. It wasn't a lightning bolt. It was a mindset shift. The next morning, Marcus didn't call his old contacts to beg for loans. He didn't try to fake his way back into a boardroom. He picked up the stone marked courage. He went out and got a job, not as a CEO, but as a clerk in a hardware store. It was humiliating. People recognized him. They whispered. They took photos. Every time he wanted to run, every time he wanted to hide, he touched the stone in his pocket. He realized that running away was easy. Standing still while the world judged you, that was hard. He had to go where the fear is. If he was afraid of being seen as a failure, he had to stand right there in the spotlight of his failure until the fear lost its power. Months passed. The work was hard, but it was honest. He began to rebuild, but not the way he did before. Before, he built for speed and height. Now, he was building for stability. He started a small consulting firm from a laptop he bought at a pawn shop. He helped small family businesses organize their finances. It was a slow grind. It felt like he was staring at a massive peak he could never conquer. But he remembered the third stone: patience. You have to climb your mountain, he told himself, and you can't jump to the top. He took one step, then another. He focused on overcoming obstacles one by one, rather than trying to clear the whole path in a day. When a client couldn't pay, instead of suing them, he worked out a plan. He built relationships based on trust, not leverage. He stopped looking at what his old rivals were doing. He realized that trying to copy their ruthless tactics was what got him killed the first time. He decided to always create your own path. 5 years later, Marcus walked into a boardroom. It wasn't a penthouse, but it was his. His company, Foundations, had become the most trusted consultancy in the state. They didn't have the flashiest ads, but they had rock-solid integrity. But today, the wolves were at the door. A massive conglomerate, led by a man named Sterling. A man who reminded Marcus exactly of his younger self, was attempting a hostile takeover. They had manipulated stock prices, spread rumors, and cornered Marcus into a meeting where they expected him to sign over his life's work for pennies on the dollar. Sterling sat at the head of the table, flanked by an army of lawyers. He smirked as Marcus entered. "It's over, Marcus," Sterling said, sliding a contract across the mahogany table. "We have the leverage. We have the capital. You can't fight this. Sign, and you walk away with a little dignity." The air in the room was suffocating. The lawyers leaned in like sharks sensing blood. They expected Marcus to yell. They expected him to sweat. They expected him to fight dirty, to countersue, to panic. Marcus didn't sit down. He reached into his pocket. The room went silent. Was he pulling out a weapon? A recording device? Marcus pulled out 4 worn, smooth stones. He placed them on the table. Asterisk, clack, 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 clack. Patience, gratitude, courage, faith. He looked at Sterling. Marcus's face wasn't angry. It was terrifyingly calm. It was the face of a man who had already lost everything and realized that everything wasn't what mattered. "You think you have leverage," Marcus said, his voice steady, "because you think I'm afraid to lose this company." Sterling frowned. You should be. It's all you have. No, Marcus smiled gently. I built this company from nothing but these 4 things. If you take the building, if you take the name, if you take the accounts, I will just walk across the street and build it again. Because I know how. You only know how to steal what others build. He pushed the contract back toward Sterling. I have the power of resilience, Marcus continued. I have walked through the fire. You've only ever watched it on TV. I'm not signing, and I'm not selling. If you want this company, you're going to have to destroy it. And if you do, I'll build another one on top of the ashes before the smoke even clears. Marcus leaned in close. I walk your own path, Sterling. I don't walk yours, and your path ends here. He turned and walked toward the door. For a long moment, nobody moved. Sterling looked at the contract, then at the stones, and then at Marcus's back. He saw something he didn't have a spreadsheet for. He saw a man who couldn't be threatened because he had nothing left to fear. The takeover failed. The investors backed out. They didn't want to go to war with a man who looked at ruin and smiled. Marcus kept his company, but that evening, back in his modest office, he put the stones back in the wooden box. He didn't need to look at them every day anymore. They were inside him now. He realized that the hard times his father wrote about weren't a punishment. They were a forge. The fire hadn't burned him up. It had burned off everything that wasn't real. If you are standing in the wreckage of your life right now, looking for a way out, stop looking for a check. Stop looking for a shortcut. Open the box, find your stones, and start building. Marcus proved that the mind is like a mental factory. You can produce excuses, or you can build an empire of character. He chose to go where the fear is, creating a mindset shift that money couldn't buy. Now, I want to know, if you opened a box labeled 4 things in your hard times, what 4 words would you need painted on your stones? Tell me in the comments below. And seriously, don't just scroll away. I poured my soul into this story to help you climb your mountain. If you leave without subscribing, it's like ignoring a friend who's trying to help you up. Don't be that cold. Hit the subscribe button so I don't have to cry myself to sleep tonight. Like the video if you're ready to walk your own path.